Hello, and thanks for joining us today on the Higher Ground podcast. My name is Tom Castriota, and I got the idea for this podcast during a coaching session that I had with one of my mentees. It's a simple idea, really. I interview my friends to cover all sorts of topics about life at work and provide advice to help you reach your career potential. So whether you're preparing for an interview, seeking a promotion, or just curious about what's in the minds of hiring managers, executives, or other interview candidates, then this podcast is for you. Join us as we explore real career journeys, one story at a time. Oh, and from our lawyers, views expressed on the Higher Ground podcast are the personal opinions of myself and our guests and don't necessarily represent the views of their employers, past or present. And if you like the show, please like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Higher Ground podcast. I'm your host, Tom Castriota, and I have a special guest for you today, my friend, Jaeson Augustine. Jaeson joins us for the show and looking forward to a conversation. We used to work together in a past life. Jaeson's a technology manager, but rather than me try to pretend I know what his illustrious background is, why don't you introduce yourself to our guest, why don't you introduce yourself, Jaeson, to our audience and carry on.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me in your podcast. I've been listening to your podcast. It's fun, and it gives a lot of information for people who kind of are new to the career, to give them an idea on how to go about it. So it's been really informative. So I thank you for at least starting the podcast. So just to introduce myself, so my name is Jaeson Augustine. So I work in a fintech here in the Bay Area, and as Tom called out, we've worked in our past life together. It was a fun time. I still look back and think about the good conversations, the fun, the laughs that we had together. So I do miss you.
Thank you very much. I have to say,
right now.
We've had our fair share of like technical problems and people problems. At the end of the day, though, what I love about work is when you get to meet somebody like yourself who just you're a good friend with and you end up having a good relationship. And even though we haven't talked in a little while, it's like we just pick right up and just start making each other laugh about things without even really trying, frankly.
Yeah. No, I think the last time I spoke to you was when I went to Louisiana. I think you went for a trip before me for the French quarters and stuff like that.
Yes,
And
New Orleans,
I just hit you up and asked you, dude, like, what are the important places I should visit? So I think that was like maybe 3 years ago.
Wow, time flies.
Years ago.
Man, it's wild. Yeah, that's a very fun town, New Orleans. Yeah, food. Did you like? What did you like the most? The music, the food, the what was your best part of the experience?
Everything. The piece that I didn't like was the heat. Okay, so for my skin, I've never had a sunburn. Okay, I went to Louisiana, went to the beach, and my back. I had that was the first experience of sunburn. Like it was like really hard, painful, and the skin was peeling off.
Oh my God! Oh, so you got a burn.
I got really burnt. Yeah, just on the shoulders, because that was above the water. But that was fun experience. The weather in Louisiana, it was something that I've not experienced before. The humidity, like I remember at 8 in the morning, it was 80 degrees outside.
Yeah. The South is an interesting, but I've gotten my fair share of sunburns, and I remember growing up as a kid. I grew up in Long Island, and we like the idea of sunblock. What do you want sunblock? You want to get a tan, and you have to get that first burn. We used to put baby oil on our bodies. Like it's a miracle. Like cancer hasn't taken all of us from that, But I distinctly remember working for a couple companies in the South, and there was this one company that was in Melbourne, Florida, and we used to go golfing. You'd have to go at like the crack of dawn, like 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Because the heat would come in off the water. You could literally watch the humidity come in off, and it would just flow in, and it was really something. But I'm really glad you had a good time. it's a really fun town. It's for me, the food and the music
Yeah.
the draw, if you would. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So we worked together, did a lot of technology projects,
Mhm.
a lot of a lot of data. We're basically implementing data governance work, right? And well, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background before we get into some of the other bits?
Okay.
So,
So I grew up in India. I did my engineering in India. But again, like my engineering was in mechanical engineering when I studied. But I switched careers, moved to the US,
hmm,
and then I did some contracting job initially. And again, like I was very new to this industry.
hmm,
I had some good mentors and people who trusted me or gave me a shot at the
hmm,
beginning, because when I kind of wanted to join work, it was in 2010. So we were just coming out of recession, so the job market was kind of bad.
hmm,
um, so I kind of was searching for a job for 10 months before I landed something. But again, as I was saying, there were some good people, good mentors who kind of helped me to learn this space, to get on board. Even for SQL queries, I had somebody who kind of taught me on how to do that. So again, I have to say that I've been blessed with good people around me who kind of gave me a shot, who helped me learn the space and kind
hmm.
of grow. Again, like I'm sure, like fresh out of college, your ideas are a little different. So when I joined, I was like thinking, why is this guy paid high? Because I do a lot of work. But then as you mature, you realize it's not just doing the work that you have, it's
Right.
more about like thinking around how you can make an impact, not only for the teams that are around you, but how do you eventually make an impact for the company, right?
Absolutely.
So that kind of changing the way that you think, it took me some time, because when I was a junior, people used to say, okay, you need experience, you need experience, you need experience. And I used to think, why do I need experience? Because I can complete the work much better than anybody around me, much
Hmm,
faster than anybody around me.
hmm.
Like I used to see people like struggling to solve a problem for like 4 or 5 hours, when I would just completely solve the problem in like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Okay, so I had that skill of
Hmm,
looking at the problem and trying to identify what the solution can be, or how to even like identify what the problem is. So I don't know, I kind of had that skill where I can immediately look at what the issue
see
is.
the solution.
Yeah, solution, and even identifying the problem in the
Hmm,
first place. But as I grew in the career, I kind of realized, okay, that is not just that's a part of the job, but there is a lot more outside your daily duties that you have to do
yeah.
to make an impact.
I, and the thing is, like, it's contributing is important, right? That's the bare, like, that's the floor.
Yeah.
You want to get to the ceiling. You've got
Correct.
there's
Yeah.
extra stuff you need to do to get there. Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah, so I've learned a lot in my career. Again, like coming from India, my background was different. I've
Mm,
had issues with interviews because culturally I didn't understand like what they were asking or what they were
mm,
trying to get out of me. So I've had a learning curve um, earlier on in my career, which kind of helped me to rethink how I have to speak to people and how do I have to kind of um, um, change my words.
sure.
Because again, like I realized like words are more powerful than
Mm,
just like you can say a statement in a very simple way, or you can say the statement in a really complicated way, like
mm,
using like different words from the dictionary. Um, but I do realize the power of communication now.
yeah.
Like again, like I'm sure you would have heard this saying, like pen is more mightier than a sword. um, I kind of was on the sword side for a while.
Yeah. 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 I trust me. Have you ever heard the expression "a bull in a china shop"? Have you heard that?
No,
Have that expression?
no.
Yeah, imagine a bull walking through a store that sells like fine china and and glass and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
That's a I was like
Yeah.
that in my younger days. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
right. This is the way,
Yeah.
and it's not about the message. It's about the
Yeah.
quality of the content. And
Correct.
no, it's both. You need both. Yeah.
Yeah. You need both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was like one of your influential moments that made you realize that communication played a big factor, right? In like, was there any specific thing, or it just was a sort of slow learning process?
I think it was a slow learning process, but I would say it all started when I started to have presentations with the C-suite,
Mm,
like with the executives. So again, earlier on my career, my interactions was with product, with engineering, and like peers who were kind of either my grade or maybe a couple of positions above me, right?
sure,
Um, so I didn't have a problem with those kind of conversations because it's
sure.
more like you kind of talk to them and all those things. But when I started getting pulled into executive presentations
Mm,
with senior members, right? So that is when I kind of understood the power of using words. I can clearly have an example. So there was one escalation. I was working with another team within the company. Um, they didn't want to take ownership of what they were supposed to do. I mean, there were multiple reasons, like they were understaffed, they were already under the fire. So whatever the reason might be, the ideal solution is that they own it, they build it,
sure.
they own it, and we use the solution that they
Mm,
built. But it went in tangent. They were not ready to do it, so it became an escalation. So we had to go to our SVP. So during that meeting, so they asked me to present. So I was going through the solution. So option A is this, like they build it, they own it. Option B, we inner source. Option 3 is like we build it, but eventually they kind of take it, kind of a thing, right?
mm,
So the conversation went in such a way that we kind of landed on option 3, where even though it does not belong to my team, like we build it and we own it. um, I was kind of leaning in such a way, saying that okay, I'll build it, but let the other team own it.
mm.
But I think I used the wrong word, and then suddenly my SVP stopped me and he said, are you going to own it? Like a straight question,
Just a point blank,
just a
like,
point blank question.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I was beating around the bush. I knew I was
Uh,
beating around the bush because I didn't want
ah,
to take that
yeah.
ownership, right?
Well, it's hard. You don't want to necessarily commit, and you're not sure if you can own it over time,
Exactly.
right? Like,
I didn't want to.
yeah, yeah,
But then he again, that's the difference. So when you go in front of a C-suite executives who've been in presentations for long, like I've known VPs or SVPs who would look at the first slide and then you'll be on the 20th slide or like 30th slide. They'll say, okay, you showed me this on the first slide, but you're showing
let's go
something
back.
different on the
Yeah,
30th.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go back. I'm like how do you even like keep that in your mind that the first slide had this number? It was just a decimal point problem.
Sure, sure,
Okay.
sure.
So you had like 20 point like 35 and then like 203.5. Maybe it was a
Sure.
typo.
Typo, or yeah, yeah,
Typo.
yeah.
But like for a person to keep that in his mind that okay, first slide you showed me this and during the 30th slide you're showing me this, right? Man, that's like, so you have to be so what I realized, you have to be well prepared when you go in front of the C-suite. And man, you have to like look at the presentation 1,000 times,
1,000 times.
and have a run with the presentation with as many people as possible before you go in front of the
Yeah.
executives.
I cannot agree more, particularly when it comes to the numbers. Like, if you're going to put numbers on a slide,
Mm.
they better foot, they better tally, you better know every
Yeah,
single number. Like, and you're right, you've got to have internal consistency across the deck,
yeah,
because like, sometimes it's not memory. Sometimes, like, what a VP or what an executive will look at the deck and be like, because I'll do this sometimes. I'll look at it and be like,
mm,
I've got the problem and the solution in my mind, and I've got the metrics around it, like thinking about how to work. And if you're off by scale, like the decibels in the wrong place, like, hold on a second, this changes everything. You're saying it's 10x or 1/10 the x? Like, yeah, no,
yeah,
it's true.
yeah,
That's really good advice. I think, especially when you start making that shift, right?
yeah,
Because I can't tell you how many times, and I'm still learning, but I can't tell you how many times I've put together a deck that's just
yeah,
got too many
yeah,
words,
yeah,
too many slides. Be nice to your audience. Put some, even if it's a dumb picture, like,
yeah,
just put some clip art on the page, for God's sakes, because it's
yeah,
brutal without it. Yeah,
yeah. And again,
yeah,
I just want to emphasize that this feeling of going in front of SVPs or like again the C-suite is still nerve-wracking, even with all
Yeah.
these amount of years of experience. Again, I want to go back to one example where you and I
Sure.
were involved.
Okay.
Okay, because I remember this because that was the first time I had to go in front of an CTO. Okay,
Okay.
so there
Interesting.
was one project, I don't know whether you remember or not. So there was this one project that we were building around data quality, and there was another team that they kind of wanted to build it as well, so it became an escalation, so we had to go in front of our CTO, right, on basically getting a sign off to continue with the project and build the project. So I didn't want to talk in that meeting. Okay, to be honest, like they were
Okay.
all very senior executives, like everybody is like C-suite,
Hmm.
CTO, again like SVPs, EVPs, all in that meeting. I really didn't want to talk, and so I let you talk. Okay, so in
Which is dangerous. Like that's a dangerous thing to let me loose.
you did a good job, but I
Oh,
can feel that you were getting stressed and
hmm,
that you were going out of breath at one
okay.
point. All right,
Okay.
and then I had to step in because
Okay.
if I don't step in at that point, like we wouldn't be explain it well to the
Hmm.
CTO.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of stepped in, and the conversation shifted to me, where the CTO started asking point blank questions to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. How about this? How
Yeah,
about this? How about this? Yeah.
yeah, about this, and eventually it went well, right? And we got the project, but I just wanted to tell you that it doesn't matter how old you are.
Oh God, no.
The
Oh, please.
butterflies are still there
Yeah.
when you go in
Yeah.
front of.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, but this is the importance of, in my mind, right? This is the importance of team, because like
Mm,
I'll bring certain things to the meeting, you'll bring certain things. You've
yes.
got to make sure you've got, and you're right. Once, like I know this, you get fatigue if you're on the hot seat for too long. You need a
Mm,
breath. You need someone to step in and be like, okay, Jaeson, take us over here, or like, let's go deeper in this,
yeah.
so you can kind of catch and regroup and sort of
Yeah.
tag team, if you would. It's
Yeah.
better that way, and also I think there are skills that will bring that are different. Like you might be further in the details, I might be higher in the design,
Yeah.
and I don't. The higher
Correct.
lower is actually a terrible analogy. There's different parts, right? So like I
Mm,
might be in this particular part of the process in the design phase, or at the other end of testing, right? And you're in the
yeah.
this is how things work, and we this is why it's good to have
Correct.
two things. It's good to have a diverse team, right, with different
Mm,
skills at different parts of the chain, but also practice, practice,
practice. Yeah.
practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah. Afterwards, you're going to remind me of the names.
I will.
Yeah, I have the names in my mind, but I want to confirm that's who I think it is. We don't name names on this program.
No.
That's the thing. We're very low key. No, that's great. So tell me, if you would, about your transition, right? Because you went from an individual contributor, right, coding, to then starting to like manage. Maybe I don't know what your process was. Like, was it a whole team? Did you get individuals? Tell me about the
Yeah.
transition from IC to manager.
Yeah. So just to step back, right? So
Oh,
starting
sure.
of the career, um, me especially, and I'm sure that many of the folks who are new to a career would not, how do I say this? They would not have an idea on what path to take, because there are two paths to take, right? So that one is an IC and the other is like people management, right?
Yeah.
So at one point in your career, you would have to make a choice if you are in technology, that whether you want to go through a managerial role or whether you want to contribute as an IC, where you become a senior engineer, an architect, and things like that, right? So I've had learning processes. All right. One thing I
Yes.
realized, one thing I realized very early on in my career is that becoming a manager too soon, or stepping into a position that you're not ready
All right.
yet into too soon, will get you shot. Okay, when I mean shot,
And for the record, he doesn't mean actually
yeah,
shot.
okay,
Like,
not in the foot. Okay, there
yeah,
should
not
be
in
no
the
foot
foot,
in the
not in the head.
foot.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
not in the head, nothing like that. Okay, it's just an analogy. Okay,
Yes, yes,
so um, so I had a manager very early in my career.
yes.
He's a good guy. He was a very very great, an IC. As an IC, he did really good. But they promoted him into a managerial role. And very soon, even though I was really junior, I realized that he was not prepped for that
Mm,
position. So he tried to do this and that, but then finally he was laid off. So I've had a couple of managers like that, who
mm,
again, very early on in my career, I kind of saw that they were not fit for that position. Again,
mm.
it does not mean that they are bad as workers. Like, they are,
Sure.
you need to identify what skills are good for you as an individual first, right? Others can tell you what you're good at, looking at how you are performing or how you operate at your workspace. But you have to kind of introspect and figure out, like, what you are good at, what are your skills, right?
Yes.
So for me, um again, I'm borderline introvert. Okay, I'm not. I mean, you can smile about it,
I
but
don't know.
again,
Maybe.
maybe. So it, I wouldn't be able to talk like this the first time I meet somebody. I might start low key until
Mm.
I kind of understand their
Oh, that's
characteristics.
fair. Yeah, you have to warm up. You need to get to know a person, and yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, but soon I realized that I was good with people,
Mm,
right? So uh, it was not just managing people from, how do I say this, just from a company or process standpoint, like
sure.
political managing. There's one way you can manage
Yeah.
folks,
Yeah.
like, just work, this is the process, you follow this, I follow this, kind of a way.
Yes.
But
Command and control
yeah,
structure. Yeah.
correct. I was not like that. I wanted to know people. I wanted to kind of understand them. I wanted to understand what their characteristics are.
Mm,
I wanted to understand what motivates them to work more,
mm,
right? Like, for me, I kind of realized that there are people who are motivated by position and money,
sure.
right? So you give them more money, or you give them more kind of freebies, and they are happy. There
Sure.
are people who are motivated by position, not by
Mm.
money, right? So they wanted to be a manager, senior manager, and stuff like that.
Title's important.
Title, yeah,
Yep.
title is important too. There are folks who are happy with where they are.
Mm,
They don't want to grow.
mm.
It could be many reasons, right? So their family, like, whatnot. But people are really really happy with the position they are in.
Yeah.
They don't want to grow and just contribute and stay where they are. So you need to understand, like, what ticks each and everybody
That's right.
individually,
Yeah.
and then focus on that area, right, to help them, nurture them, and keep them happy. That is one point.
Absolutely.
The other side of the thing is, again, like, with my experience, I've seen, like, people who are not fit to that position or this position. You kind of need to understand what people are good at. Some
Hmm.
might be good at coding, some might be good at other things, some might be good at, like, building relationships, going behind and solving cross functional problems. You need to identify, like, who sits where,
Mm,
and then place them in that position, so that everything works out well for them as well as the company, right?
absolutely.
Again, these are things that kind of were in my mind when I was like, really early on in my career, and soon I
Sure.
realized that the position was better suited for me,
Mm,
right? The other part of it is, again, as I was saying, I really like to look at problems, solve problems, and build solutions, right?
mm.
um,
Same.
so again, having a team kind of helped with that as well. Like, instead of me just looking at a problem, I had a team of folks who kind of
Mm,
look at the problem, and it brings about other ideas, right? Because
sure.
you being in industry, you have some kind of an experience. There are other folks who come from other companies, they would have done it differently. So
You might have
there's
different
an opportunity.
educational background. You might have different cultural background or gender or whatnot. And
Yes.
that diversity brings lots of perspectives. And I can't tell you how many times I've been surprised. Like I never would have thought of that. And like
Yeah.
it's turned out to be such a good idea. And it's like I couldn't have, that's why you need that mix.
Yeah. Yeah. So again,
Okay.
like, short answer. I know it's been a long answer,
No,
but
no.
um but the point is, like, again, early on in my career, I think I kind of knew
Mm,
that managerial part was the path for me. So it didn't start immediately, but
mm,
over the years, I kind of had one person I managed, then it became two. um, so and again, my leadership saw that I was doing a decent job managing them, with the response I got from the
You're
team. And
humble. You're humble. You do a phenomenal job. Yeah.
so yeah, eventually that's how I grew. So now I run an engineering team with about 20 plus folks.
That's
uh,
fantastic.
so
Yeah. How did you find the transition from? So I think when you get to, I don't know what number is, I'll pick a random number, somewhere between 8 and 12, you
mhm.
can't, forget
No,
12, probably between 6 and 8, right? You can't have that many direct reports, right? So now you're a manager of managers, right? I
correct.
would imagine you've got a couple, at least two managers under that, that.
Yeah,
How did you find that transition? Now you're not just executing like through your team, now you're executing through your managers as well. Did you find that transition difficult?
it was organic for me, and
Hmm.
the reason is I manage folks across time zones or globally.
Ah,
Okay,
okay.
so I have a team in Shanghai, I have team in India, I have team in US. So I kind of had to pick seniors or managers
Hmm.
within the region,
Oh,
because
I see.
it's not fair for the employees, because I'm not there every day. Again,
100%.
even if I had to manage, I keep repeating this, like, if I'm there with you day in and day out, I can sense if something is going wrong. I can
Right.
look at your face, I can see how you're operating.
Yeah.
I can kind of sense if something is wrong, and I can have a conversation with you. It could be personal, it could be work related, it could be
Sure.
anything, right? Because everything affects your work. If
Yeah.
something goes wrong in your family, it's going to affect you. So
Sure.
there are times that as a manager you have to lend a helping hand to, because he's a great employee, he might be working great, maybe there's something that he's going through a period like that, you
Mm.
might need to help out, right? So just because he's not performing at that moment doesn't mean
Slice
that
of
he's a
time.
bad
Yeah.
bad employee, right?
Yeah.
So again, like, managing people across time zones is really hard because you're not there.
Yeah.
And sometimes with cultural differences, there are people from other backgrounds who don't voice out their
Mm.
problems. It's not like America, like, you have a problem, you go to your manager or a peer, you say, hey dude, like, this is my problem, like, fix it or give me a solution, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's
doesn't
true.
op- it doesn't operate that way. Like, you work with people in Asian countries, even if they hate you, they would not open their mouth.
Mm.
All right,
Mm.
so even if it's an anonymous review,
Mm.
anonymous feedback, they would not give you a bad feedback. So
Interesting.
understanding that culture, you have to force them to ask questions. You have to
Interesting.
that there is something going on, right? Like,
Yeah.
from a company perspective, let's say there's something happening, layoffs happening, that it's there in the
They're
mind of.
nervous about something. It's in
Yeah,
their mind, right? They're stressing them
yeah,
out.
yeah, I mean, because you've been through it as well, like,
Of
everybody
course.
goes through it.
Yeah.
So you need to have that empathy to understand, okay, like, you're not with them to give them an idea or give them comfort that, okay guys, this is not going to happen to us, or okay, let's figure out a solution and go through
Mm.
this. So you have to spend time and help them break that shell of
Yeah.
opening up to you. um
I think it's building a degree of trust too, that they feel
yeah,
they can share this with you. And even though you, as their manager, may not either agree or even feel what they're feeling, you can show that compassion to say,
yeah.
okay, look, I get it. You're not in a good place. Let's
Hmm.
talk through it. Let's help you find that good place and get you there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Where I am now, I think it's probably been it's over a year,
Mm.
might even be longer. This is the first time in 30, oh God, I'm so old, in like 30 years that I've not had a team. Like, of
Ah,
course, you work with other people, right? But
got
I've
it.
not been an actual people manager, and it's
Mhm.
been very strange. Like, of course, you'll work with people. You could ask, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And like, I think part of the art of being successful as an IC, as an independent contributor, is is being able to get help where you need help. Because there are things I know straight up, like I
Mm.
cannot be like I can do, but it requires 10x the energy to get it done.
Yeah.
Right. And if like I know so and so, Sandy over here, she can help me with this, or Joe, he can help me with that. Like, and that'll take them 1 hour. It takes me, a lot longer. And, you can be more effective in that way, but it's an influence thing. It's not like, hey, our team's mandate is to do X, Y, and Z, and this is your role in it. And like, yep, got it. Let's get it done. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's been an interesting transition. It's been a really long time, and I don't feel like, oh, do you like it? Do you like being an IC again? I'm like, I do. I do enjoy the focusing just on the work.
Mm-hmm.
But I miss my peeps.
Yeah,
Like I miss having a team to do just what you described. Like, so what's
yeah,
going on? How are things? How are things at home?
yeah,
You would still have those conversations, and they're just as like I'm much more extroverted, as you might
yeah,
have guessed.
yeah.
Just slightly. Um,
I I didn't I didn't guess that.
you didn't notice that? You didn't notice that about me by chance? Okay. Well, pay attention. It'll come out eventually. No, but it's been fascinating, right? Because I think to become like some of the best, and I know I've mentioned this in the past, but like some of my best teachers of management have been my worst managers. Like
True.
people who
Yeah,
just, you watch them like, oh my gosh, why did you say that? Why did you do
yeah,
that? How did you treat this person that way? Whatnot. I'm like, not singling anybody out, but or
yeah,
even it could be subtle things like making a decision sometimes it's benefit to make a decision quickly. And then there's
yeah.
other times where it's just to get it done without,
Mm,
like sometimes it's worth taking longer, gather more data, get more input. I
yeah.
tend to err a little bit on the over collecting information because I don't want to go
Mhm.
back on my decision. Right. That's the data junkie in me, but
Yeah,
at some point you got to pull the trigger. Right. Like, so
right.
there's that balance, but,
Yeah.
and one of the things you said I want to probe on a little bit is you mentioned that you'll see a person in a particular role, or rather you'll say like they are probably aspiring to get that promotion or they get that title,
Mm,
um, or that additional response. Maybe they want to manage, right? But when
mm,
have you seen them or you've given them a shot in that spot, how do you find the difficult times when like you realize either you don't think they can do it or
mm.
they've been trying it and they've not been succeeding? Like tell me how you work through those types of situations, because a lot of times what I think, like I'm the greatest coder alive, right? So therefore I should be a manager. Like, um, that these two things may not be correlated.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I've seen this in sales organizations where some of the best salespeople get promoted to manager and they flame out
yeah,
because they're better at selling than they are at managing. But I'd love your thoughts on that mismatch, that impotence
yeah,
mismatch between what they want and what they can do.
yeah. So first thing is you need to have a conversation with them. You
Mm,
have to give them both the paths, and you have to explain what the future would kind of look like if they
mm,
chose one over the other, right? So that is the first step. So you need to make it clear that you're going to try it out, right? So if it works out, then it works out, or else then they might have to go back to being an IC
rethink it.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, rethink their position on whether they want to manage folks, right?
Mm,
The second thing and most critical, you have to coach them step by step.
mm,
Okay, so let's say I kind of have a person nominate somebody to be a manager, right?
mm-hmm,
I would have weekly one-on-ones with them to see how they're operating. I would have, I would be part of most of their meetings initially, okay,
mm,
just to coach them on how they're having how they're conversing, what are the things that they're missing, what are the things that they have to do to improve upon those areas that they're
love that.
lagging, right? So for you to build the next level, you
Mm-hmm,
have to initially spend a lot of time until
mm,
one, you are confident that that person can handle things when you're not available.
mm,
So until that confidence is built, you have to be a shadow
mm,
for them. So during that period, since you're shadowing them, they also know that that you're there to correct any mistakes that they
mm,
make. So they're open to change. Number one.
mm,
Second thing is like it. If you ask me, it all comes down to like if you're in a people manager position, it all comes down to communication and
mm.
how you speak. Again, words are powerful,
Words
right?
matter. Yeah.
So yeah, it depends on how you say what you have to say, right? Let's say there was a huge org change or some change that happened in the company. There's one way of saying it is, dude, like this is beyond me. Upper management did it. I'm not able to say, I have no say in this. So
Yeah,
this is life.
it is what it is.
It is
Like,
what it is. It is life. Like, take it and move on, right? The other way of doing it is identifying or understanding why the company made that decision,
hmm
right? And then explaining that decision that the company had made as much as you can in
hmm
your capacity to the team, right? It might not be a perfect answer,
sure.
but at least it's an answer,
Yeah,
right? Rather than saying just, hey, just go do this, saying, okay, like, this is why the company is doing it. In the long term, this will benefit the company, and all those things definitely helps them understand that change more than just giving direction.
cannot agree with you more. Understanding the why
Yeah,
is so important to motivating behavior. Like,
correct.
it's funny too because I'll I'll have this conversation with people, friends, family,
Mm.
my therapist, um, around like why did someone do that, and like what was their motivation, and a lot of times you
Yeah,
can't answer that question.
yeah,
But when you just don't understand why people do the things they do.
correct.
But when it comes down to like an organizational shift, a change in strategy,
Mm.
leadership is generally very good about. It's not just we randomly reorged, right? It's like
Correct.
there's a purpose, there's a mission we're trying to get to. It doesn't always feel that way on the ground, for
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
It does
Like,
not. Yeah,
like, wait a minute, this just doesn't make sense, right? And or I don't agree with this path or this or that or the other thing. But the reality is, it's there is a reason,
mm.
and often, again, we could agree or disagree, but
Yeah,
we try to get to the place of this is, to the best that I can explain the why, where I can
yeah,
get, glean it. And then
yeah.
there's the, okay, now here's how we respond, and then what we have
Correct.
to do and all that. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's really good. I like that advice. Yeah, it's a
One
tough.
thing,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead,
one
please.
thing to add, right? So sometimes, again, from my experience, I've had some, how do I say this? Some people who have a lot of questions. Like, they
Mm,
keep asking questions, 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 right? So, like, even though you gave them an answer, and that is the best answer that you can give, because uh, after that one point, like, dude, a decision has been made. Like, there was a decision, this is the reasoning for the decision. But if you don't agree to the decision, like, that is your perspective, right?
sure.
Like, the company wants to move this way, they see a benefit in that, and all those things, right? Sometimes I kind of feel like a teacher, kind of
Okay.
explaining them history. Like, one of these courses I did in Berkeley about product management. So there was this example that they gave that kind of stuck with me. Okay, it's
Mm,
about Lego. So Lego, at one period, they just had the bricks. Okay, and they just had two characters, one male character, one female character. Like, you can't change the face looks the same, like,
yeah.
the body looks the same, nothing, and all those things. And then Lego was going down in sales, and so they had to reimagine and come up with ideas to revive the company again. So they kind of went through this whole period of testing with different ideas. So they brought in kids, boys, kids separately, girls. So then they realized, okay, boys are more process or task oriented, right?
Mm,
You tell them, okay, connect this piece to this piece, they're happy connecting it, right? Girls were not like that. You say connect this piece to this piece, they'll add two more pieces to it, and make it a unicorn, or they might
yeah.
add like jewelry to it, and
Sure.
stuff like that, right? So then Lego kind of revamped their whole idea. On Instead of just making the bricks, they started making accessories. On, okay,
Interesting.
how can I change the head, how can I
Mm,
change the face, how can I change the hand, can I give weapons or some other devices in the hands, like those
like that.
kind of things, right? So they started investing more on the accessories that comes with the bricks, which now Lego is one of the biggest companies, because they, and then they started tie-ups with film industries, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
you
Yeah.
you have you have Star Wars coming up, I'll create Star Wars characters, I'll create this environment and things like that. So the reason I'm saying that is, every company makes a decision, right?
Mm,
Blockbuster, another example, one of the biggest companies, they made a decision of not getting into
streaming.
real time streaming,
Yeah.
right? You see what happened to them, right? So again, every company makes a decision. People on the C suite or the top in the board, it is not like they're taking random decisions. They
Sure.
kind of go through a lot of analysis, they bring in third party companies, they spend a lot, right? Whether the decision is right or wrong, only time can say. But again, they've made spent enough time to make that decision. right?
I agree.
So
Yeah,
as a company, we have to go behind that decision, like whether it's a successful. How would you know whether it's going to be a success or not
you can't.
unless you give your 100% and try to
That's
make
right.
it a success, right? So again, it sometimes you have to explain a lot. Sometimes the conversations are easy. Sometimes, yeah, you have to spend a lot of time.
You just reminded me of a short story I'll share. When I was I was in when I was at Nomura Securities years ago.
Mm.
I was leading a team. We were building a very complex data warehouse. It was, still running today, by the way, which is
Okay.
a testament. I think it's still running today, at least the last I heard. And we built this data warehouse with it was a very complicated model, right? So we're
Mm.
basically doing, it was trade settlement, trade operations, trade settlement, right? And it required there was a design decision we needed to make about, do we just very simply, do we calculate balances every day
Mm.
and store the balances, or do we calculate it for at reporting time?
Correct.
Right. And I know it sounds like a very simple thing now, but like there were so many computing is wasn't what it was like
I get
today
it.
as it was then, and resources were not infinite cheap, etc. Like they're not infinite cheap now, but they're much more powerful now.
Yeah.
So we had to make some, because we had a very short window. We had a deadline of 15 minutes. Stuff needed to be refreshed. We had a
Mm.
nightly batch window that had to get things done. So it was all within the context of getting everything done. Right.
Got it.
And I
Yeah.
had a person who was on my team who was sort of my counterpart from Tokyo. He
Mm.
was his job was to basically make sure we were making good decisions and report them
Okay.
up to leadership, right? And we jokingly described him as my spy.
Okay.
That's a whole nother story, right? But basically, one time he comes into, because we're having this debate, we're having a design debate,
Mm.
right? And he comes in with like a little clock,
Oh.
and he's just like staring at the clock, and I finally I'm like, Ishizaki-san, what are you doing? And he goes, I just want to know how long y'all are gonna. He didn't say y'all. I just want to know how long you're gonna take making this decision. And I looked at him. I'm like,
Wow.
okay, that was a very dramatic way of making the
Yeah.
point. Thank you very much. I take your point. Now go. Like, we're not done with the debate yet. But to go back to your point, right?
Mhm.
The At some point you got to stop talking and stop
Yeah.
asking questions. And this is a term I've heard within the last year or two, which I really like. Even
Mm.
if you don't, like we can have the debate, we come to a conclusion, decisions made.
Yeah.
Now we commit. We can disagree,
Correct.
but
Yeah.
commit. And I love that expression, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? I'm in, right? I'm going to do the thing, but I even though I may not, my heart may not be in it, but I'm going to give it
Yeah.
my all, because we're all going to row in this direction. Otherwise, we're not going to be successful together.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first time ever having a. All right, I'll share the story. It's actually kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
So again, I was at a certain level within the organization at the time, and
Mm.
we all had our counterparts from head office, right? So we're in New
Mm.
York. It was a job in New York, and this person was assigned to me. I'm like, I've never been in this position before. I don't have
Mm.
someone from head office here, and
Mm.
it's okay. We've all got them. You get to be, I forget, VP level, whatever it was, right? And so he introduces himself, and he's like, my name is this. We did a little bit of the conversation. And I said, so look, I'm sorry, I don't understand your role. And he goes,
Mm.
oh, I can help you understand my role. My job is to, like, shadow you, basically. He didn't say shadow, but like follow you, and work with you closely and understand the decisions that you're making,
Mm.
and walk through some of the, how you're running your meetings, and
Mm.
basically take notes. And then I file a report every week to head office about how well you're doing.
Mm.
So I
Really?
go, okay, so you're a spy.
Yeah. It's
So he looks at me and he goes, I don't know what a spy is. I'm not familiar with the term spy. And I said, oh, okay. That's someone who follows me around, writes down everything that I do, and then reports that to head office. We
wow.
became very good friends. And like, but the real funny part of the story was, afterwards he would explain to people, like, he would introduce himself and he'd be like, I'm Tom Castriata, spy. So I had to try to explain to him, like, but it's not like, you don't want to necessarily tell everyone that, because that's gonna throw people off. They don't necessarily understand.
Wow. I would have been nervous if somebody was doing that,
I,
following me.
it wasn't, and the intention, again, the intention wasn't negative. Like it wasn't the spy
Okay.
connotation, like,
Yeah.
oh, and he did this, and like, it was more because we were doing a very highly complex, very expensive project. And
Mm,
it wasn't like he was part of the PMO or the architecture team. It wasn't like he was reporting to management.
got
And
it.
he had enough of a PMO background and enough of a technical background to translate it. And again, there was also the language transition, right? He had to explain
Mhm.
it in Japanese to the executives,
Got it.
right? So
Okay.
there was a lot of that. So it was more a communication vehicle and less of an actual spy.
Okay.
But it
Okay.
was interesting. It wasn't, again, like anything else, you've got to be in good, you got to have a good,
Mm,
excuse me, good communication, good relationship with the folks you
yeah.
work with, so that you're not reported on negatively.
Yeah.
So no, that's great. I do find though, giving employees feedback, like honest feedback, is one of
Mm,
the most important things, but it can be very hard.
yeah.
How do you find, like what you described as, like, first of all, I love the idea of shadowing a new manager. I think that's
Mm,
fabulous. I think I'd wish I'd had somebody do that with me. It's almost like sort of a backseat mentor where you've got
yeah.
that, you can get that advice. It's not a threatening environment. If they embrace the notion, then you both win, right? Because
Yeah.
you can give that real time feedback, and it's not the same to play back the scenario because they're going to play it back in their mind,
Mm,
and you were in the room, right? So I
yeah.
think I love that idea of that hands on. But then sometimes you're going to have to give, like, hard or critical feedback, and maybe it's not even shadowing a manager. Maybe it's an employee who's struggling.
Mm,
How do you? I look at it as a gift, like the feedback is a gift. But
yeah.
how do you give that? Sometimes it's a gift nobody wants. How do you address some of those situations?
Again, it goes back to how you say what you say, right?
Mm,
Like many a times I feel that if it is like direct, dude, like what you're doing is wrong, you have to do it this way, some people kind of like take a step back, and they don't like the way that they got the feedback,
mm,
right? I would i would initially beat around the bush. So in the sense, I would kind of talk about what are the good things that they're doing, right? The positive impact that they're making, and then I would bring in the area of development that they need to do.
kind of
I ease it
ease into it. Yeah.
ease it. The second piece is, just giving advice doesn't help anybody.
Mm,
You need to come up with how can they improve the area that they're struggling with. You need to give ideas on areas on how to improve them. Let's say
mm,
that they're not at par at coding, as for an example, right? I would ask them to kind of have a peer, or
mm,
maybe I'll assign a peer, or I would have a senior engineer shadow them for a
mm.
while, right? Let's say, like, yeah.
The nice thing about that is that's something that's very measurable and quantifiable,
Correct.
right? Like you can that's something that's not quite objective because there's creativity
Yeah.
involved, of course, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is that you can have an expert say, like, look, this is an example where you could improve, and it's
Correct.
concrete. Yeah, no, that's
Correct.
good.
Correct. So again, those are critical areas, right?
Yeah.
So if like really he needs to improve, it's affecting kind of the work that others are doing. Let's say he's hard to work with, or his peers are saying, okay, this guy is not completing what he needs to complete on time. Then I would have a conversation with him, right?
Mm,
And again, I would come up with metrics on how to improve, and to track. Let's say he's not completing things on time, I would make sure, okay, the next sprint that his work is tracked, and I would quantify how much work he's completing, how much not. So it gives me data points to kind of talk to him, right?
mm,
Him or her. The other pieces, like it opens up the conversation because they look at the data,
hmm
and there is no way for them to say, okay, this is incorrect. They have
mm,
to come up with an explanation to it. So that explanation would help us identify how to help them. It could be personal, it could be work related, it could
hmm
be just a character, right?
hmm
So you need to kind of figure out, again, just because an employee is not performing as you are expecting him to perform does not mean he's a bad employee. You might need to figure out what areas he needs improvement, and kind of nudge that employee in that direction, so they kind of improve in that space. I've never had, again, in my career, I've never had a bad conversation when I'm giving feedback,
mm,
because again, I kind of praise them on all the things that they're doing well, and
sure.
then ease this in, and kind of give them metrics, and opportunities to improve the skills that they're lacking.
I like that. How do you do it when it's the softer ones though? Like these are the ones I find harder. Like sometimes communication is
Mhm.
the problem, right? It's like you ticked off a person because you said something this way or you came at it that way. Like those are they're anecdotally
Yeah,
information, but that I find those to be a little bit trickier, right?
like people who are hard to talk to.
They may have like you may like I'm trying to come up with an example that's not doesn't sound too contrived, right? Like you've got a like a program manager, right,
Mm.
who's chasing down a number of tasks that are behind schedule, right?
Yeah.
And they're coming at it in a way that's maybe overly aggressive. And
Mm.
they're basically, it's not that they're wrong necessarily, like the facts are right,
Yeah.
but they're ticking off people in the way they're communicating.
Mm.
It's a
Yes.
little it's a little trickier. I mean, the one way you could solve that is by not having any program managers work for you. I know, but that's a
No,
solution, but it doesn't work for everyone. Like in
yeah.
the like,
No, but again, this also has been a learning to me. So when I was like really junior, I was like looking down at program managers. Like I can do their job. It's just talking to people and getting timelines and stuff like that. Over the years, I've come to appreciate the importance of program management in
oh,
an
it took
organization.
years, is what you're saying. It took a
It
really
did
long time.
it did take me years. I maybe I didn't work with really good program managers in my earlier career.
Spoken like a real engineering manager, and that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, no, but they are really critical. Like that too, when you're working with cross-functional teams with different types of people, program management becomes really critical. And I've seen the impact some good program managers can make in projects. So coming to your question, there are two ways to look at it. So one, if it's within your team,
Mm,
within your organization, it's an easier way to talk to them.
mhm.
I think like you can have a one-on-one peer chat, whatnot, um, chat about other things, and then slowly kind of bring this up and saying, okay, hey, like maybe we can dial down a little bit in our
Right, right,
language,
right.
kind of to help out the program, right? If it is if it is someone who's outside your organization, it's a little
Mm,
tricky to handle, right? Because they've not worked with you, they're just coming from the project standpoint, from a program standpoint to get things completed on time, right? um, what I've seen is that educating sometimes the program managers do not understand all the teams that are involved, what they're doing and how it all plays together. Like I've had instances where, let's say I have to finish a piece in this whole big project, multi organization working together to kind of build a product or whatnot, right? I've had instances where, because the program manager does not understand what's happening below my kind of software piece, they kind of put all the action items on me,
mm,
right? So they would say, hey, are you ready to give the data, or are you ready to do this? While I've been waiting for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, waiting for the other team to finish the piece so that
mm,
my coding might be ready, I would be code ready, right?
mhm.
But to integrate, I need my downstreams to be ready,
Of
right?
course.
Which kind of gets masked because I might be a critical piece in that program, and they see, okay, if this critical piece is completed, then the program would be green. But for this particular piece to be completed, there are other dependencies which they kind of miss, right? So, and sometimes it's hard for them to get that understanding. So many a times, what I do is I would have a one-on-one with them, right?
Mm.
And I have to explain to them, dude, like we are not the blockers, like look at these things under it. And sometimes
And
I
the pipeline, right? Like look at it from
yes, the
end to
pipeline.
end.
So sometimes I have to explain them the pipeline, which if it's a technical program manager would understand, if it's not, they wouldn't. So
Mm.
for people who don't understand it, I have to kind of call it out in the program level, saying,
Ah,
okay, these are the line of items and these are the owners, and
mhm.
these pieces needs to be ready for me to complete the work that I have done.
I see.
Sometimes it takes a while,
Sure.
right? Sometimes like program managers might be changed in the middle or is new
Sure.
to the company and stuff like that. So sometimes it does get crazy in meetings where one person is screaming, the other person is screaming, and nobody kind of understands what the actual blocker is, or where the things are blocked.
Yeah.
So I would say getting the lowest level of tracking
Mm,
helps in the long run, but getting to that lowest level of tracking with
mm,
multiple teams is the challenge,
sure.
is what I would call it.
And you mean like literally down to that task level of like
Yes,
this person
yes,
owns this one thing. Yeah,
correct.
no, I've got a, yeah, I think there's some principles in that. Like no task should be longer than, 2 weeks,
Mm, yeah,
especially when you've got 2 week sprints, like then it should be even half
correct,
that, right? There's a whole
correct.
bunch of ways, I guess, program managers, but I like your differentiation between like the program manager and the technical program manager because
Mm,
you as an engineering manager are going to have an easier time talking to. I've
yes,
worn the TPM hat for quite some time, right? So I know
mm,
you can explain, oh, okay, it's a dependency. But like what you said is you've got to make the investment with a program manager who may not understand the technical
correct,
nuances, but one thing
correct,
they better know is dependency.
correct.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's good. No, that's a good way to frame it, right? Because then you can get them through
yeah,
you're not talking about the person per se,
yeah,
right? You're talking about like dialing it back. I get like the behavior might have been over the top.
correct,
Let's bring that down, but then let's get to the actual meat of the matter. Like, let's
correct,
not spend so much time. That's good. Yeah,
correct.
no, that's great.
Again, yeah, yeah. How do I say this? So one-on-one really helps, is what I
Hmm,
would say. So if you have any conflict, because the person, basically their guards are down when you have a one-on-one with them,
sure.
and you kind of break the ice talking about things that are outside work, and you get to work, and then sometimes the priorities also might be different, right?
Hmm,
They might be, something might be important to them, while a different thing is important to you, and if you don't voice it out to them, they wouldn't know what is critical
they
for
won't
you.
know. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So again, like, yeah, there are people who are hard to work with in life.
what? I feel very targeted right now. Just kidding.
but definitely one-on-ones, again, the more you talk, building relationships, one thing that I learned, like, the more relationships you build, the easier the work becomes.
Yeah,
And like, if you are a person who's like always on the fighting mode, burning bridges, yes, you will get the work done, but yeah, it won't be an easy kind of a path for you.
yeah, I agree. And as much as you want to like get it done, get it done, get it done, like we're humans. We like to work
Correct.
with each
Yeah.
other, or at least we try to. We should like to work with each other, right? Because
Yeah.
otherwise, it's not it's not fun. But I do I really appreciate the word I'm thinking of, Jason, that keeps coming to my mind as you talk. It's compassion, right? You're leading with
Yes.
compassion. You're working through like understand the person, understand the
Yeah.
problem, really get to communicate and to really know the person. Because I think then that way,
Yeah.
it's a much more agreeable, enjoyable work experience.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's great. No, thank you for sharing. Tell me if we could switch over to interviewing. I'd like
Mm.
to just get your sense of, because we interview a lot of people. I know you've not
Yeah.
just domestically but internationally, right?
Yeah.
Tell me some common mistakes people make that we could sort of help them correct. Because sometimes they're funny. Like I can
Yeah.
say like people do some funny things. Those are always entertaining. But like I'd love to get some of the funnier ones, some of the more, like what advice you would give. Share with me some of your interview stories, if you would.
Okay. Um, I'll give you a common mistake, then I'll maybe get into some funny stories that I had. So,
Okay, sure. Cheers.
one of the most common mistakes, that too, like people coming fresh out of college,
Mm,
um, is they sometimes they go on a tangent where they talk a lot and give information that you don't need.
mm,
Um, like, let's say I say, kind of, okay, I've seen your resume, I know what you've done, right? And I say, okay, can you introduce yourself, right? And it becomes a tangent where they get stuck in one project, and they say, okay, I did this, I did this, I did that, blah blah blah, and all those things which is already there in the resume. But what I am looking for is, like, what did you learn from that?
mm.
Like, what impact did you make? What are the KPIs? Let's say you built a dashboard, how did it help your users,
What's
right?
the story behind the work?
What's the story behind the work? Because again, like, if I assign a task to you as a software engineer, yes, you will do the job. So you've cleared technical rounds, and you're there, final interview with me. So
Yeah,
I'm confident in your technical skills. I'm not looking for what technical skills you're looking for,
sure.
what you have, right? I'm looking for more on, how are you thinking about the work that you did?
Mm,
Like, what is the achievement that you brought out of that work? how did it impact the company or the team that you worked with? How did you
Sure.
gel with the members that you worked with? Did you do it by yourself, or did you work with a team members? How did you come up with the solution? We all know, like, you're fresh out of college. We are not expecting you to build a rocket. We are not expecting you to like architect something super or anything like that.
Hmm.
What we're looking for is like, how are how are you able to cope up or work with the new environment that
Sure.
you started with, right? um so one example, I was interviewing one person. It was a 45-minute interview. I said, okay, nice to meet you, can you introduce yourself, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. In the 45-minute interview, 30 minutes he spoke non-stop from the start of the interview. Okay, I tried to
You go the I
yeah,
uh
I said his name multiple times, Mr. Blah, Mr. Blah, Mr.
Mr.
Blah,
Blah. Yeah.
Mr. Blah, and or maybe Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith.
Maybe Mr. Smith. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Didn't stop,
Nothing.
non-stop. He would ask a question and he would answer the question. I've never seen a person like that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
tough.
oh, we
That's
built
tough.
this. I built this. Did you know why I built this? Then he will answer the question. Did you know why I did this? Because he'll answer the question. Like for 30 minutes in the 45
Wow.
minute interview. I couldn't get a question then.
That's I only had that happen one time where I did something. I think actually the mistake might have been the open ended, but it was kind of good. He was interviewing for another. He was
Mm,
interviewing for a program manager spot, right? And I think we had 30 minutes. And similarly, I was like the last. I was the last interview. The person had he had very good skills, and
mm,
um, made it through sort of the program managing stuff,
got it. Uh-huh.
right? But when they came to talk to me, I said, "So tell me a little bit about yourself." And man, it was 30 minutes, and I,
Yeah,
right, I kept trying to dig in there, and then eventually, I just like looked at my watch. I'm like, "Okay, 10 minutes left,"
yeah,
and then like, "Okay, so we've got 5 minutes left. In this last 5 minutes we have, do you have any questions for me?"
yeah. Exactly.
He was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, like we're out of time. We had a 30-minute interview and you
Yeah,
spoke for 25." So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's wild.
The
Yeah.
other thing I would say, I mean, again, since I work internationally, sometimes language becomes a problem, or
Mm,
sometimes the words that we use become a problem. Um, like for example, um, this happened to me in one of my interviews, like when I was really young, um, and I was new to the country, and I was interviewing for an internship position, and the guy was just talking, and he said, "Okay, you can take it to the bank." Okay.
okay.
I didn't know what take it to the bank means.
Oh, I know.
Now I know what it means.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But
yeah.
when he said that, okay, what should I take to the
Yeah,
bank?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
this.
That's so funny. That's so
The guy,
funny.
so cultural differences does make an impact. So you
Now,
need to be aware.
in that example, right? So this okay, I'm curious how you so did you have the comfort or confidence to ask what that meant in that
I
moment?
did because
Yeah.
I didn't know, right? So I
Yeah.
kind of,
And this to
and
me is
some
a
people won't
positive.
ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, no, no. And that's a super cultural thing, right? So I would never ding you for not asking, but what
Mm,
I would give you a plus for is asking. Like, I'm
mm,
sorry, could I just pause you for a second? I don't know what take it to the bank means. Could you explain that? I've never heard that expression before. Oh, no
yeah.
problem. And then, like you do the thing. And I think that level of comfort to
Yeah.
ask your interviewer if you're not sure about something is it demonstrates curiosity, it demonstrates you're not afraid of the
Mm,
interviewer. Like, because
mm,
you're going to work together. You got to be able to ask me questions, right? So,
yeah.
so that's interesting. Okay,
I have
nice.
another. This is personal example. Okay, again, I was interviewing for an internship position, and I was telling you, right, I was searching for a job for 10 months, so I took a lot of interviews.
Took a
This
lot
is
of
the
interviews. Yeah, a lot of
thing.
experience with
Yeah,
that. Yes.
so I was interviewing, so yeah, I kind of made through it. It was the last round. Um, so this guy, there were like 4 or 5 interviewers. He took me into a room, and I think he wanted to kind of see my innovative thinking.
Hmm.
Okay, and he gave me a plastic, uh, I don't know how to it's just a plastic kind of bottle. It looked like a teddy bear. Okay, a
Okay.
plastic, and it was filled with liquid.
Hmm.
And and basically he asked me, what do you think this is? I went on a tangent. Okay, maybe this. had no idea what it was. Okay. Then at the end of the interview, he tried to nudge me towards the answer. I really didn't know what it was, and finally said it was fabric softener. Okay, the teddy bear on top of it was basically the fabric softener company or whatnot.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The problem is, growing up, I didn't know what a fabric softener is. We never used fabric softener in India while I was growing
I
up.
see.
Okay, we didn't even have a washing machine, to be frank with you,
Yeah,
until I
yeah.
kind of made it to my university. So we've never used fabric softener, never seen fabric softener. I don't
How
know
would you
what
know?
fabric softener is. And he said that that specific piece of device with the fabric softener goes on top of your iron. So when you're
Oh,
pressing your shirt, you basically
it,
do a couple of sprays on it and you press it along with it, so it becomes a fabric softener. So he was trying to get fabric softener out of me, while I didn't even know what a fabric softener
you had
was.
no cultural basis to have any
No,
idea what it was.
no idea, right? So again, I couldn't complain that to him, because after the end of the interview, I said, "Okay, this is fabric softener," and I walked out. But again, that looking for that cultural thing, like you need to understand where they're coming
Yeah,
from, because again, these kind of things, I might have been a great fit for that role
yeah.
because I made it until the final round, but I did not get selected because of this. I knew that it was this, because
Sure,
while
sure.
others were from the US, they kind of knew what he said. Like, didn't you know, looking at the teddy bear on it? I'm like, no, it's a teddy bear. I
It
didn't know
doesn't look
what
like something a
it
kid would play with. Like,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a hard interview, and yeah,
Yeah.
kind of brought me down, because it didn't feel fair to me.
Doesn't, yeah,
But
no.
again, like, it's an experience, right? So now when I
Sure.
interview people from other countries, I kind of try to not bring in cultural aspects, or
Yeah.
things that they might not be used to, and try to keep it as basic as possible. um,
Wow. Yeah, no, I know, like that's really that like, and again, as putting myself on the other side of the desk,
mm,
never would have thought of that.
yeah,
Right? Like that's the kind of thing, like, you got to make a very conscious effort
yeah,
to uh maybe that's where getting the team to like
hmm,
ask like, is this an unbiased question, is this a fair question,
yeah,
right? Like I'm colorblind, like I see color but I
hmm,
can't always differentiate color, right? and i
hmm.
and i can't tell you how often, like, I'll go into a deck and like I'll see
Oh
the
wow,
the
okay.
red, yellow, green, and sometimes the yellow and green are can be very different. Like if you give me a box of 8 crayons, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But it's not really green, it's chartreuse. And the yellow
Yeah.
is not yellow, it's goldenrod. And it's
Mm.
like, what the hell? Like, like what are these colors? Right? And they make them pastels and they blend them. And I'm like, okay, and maybe we could put in a little symbol inside the thing just so I know
Mm.
this is good, this is
Yeah,
not good, and that's bad. Like that would be amazing.
yeah.
So taking into account like culture, accessibility, like understanding is
Mhm.
that's a really good example of that. Because
Yeah.
like again, being on the other side of the desk, I would have not necessarily known, right?
Mhm.
But I take your point. Like you may not have ever experienced that. So you have
Yeah.
to make that conscious effort to make sure
Yeah.
your questions and your interviewing things are fair. Right. And I
Yeah.
think I love it. That's good. That's a very good example. And I know I've taken up a ton of your time today. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. Just one last question, if you
Mhm.
would. If I could ask you, what advice would you give your younger self? If you could time travel and go back and not create a ripple in time and meeting yourself, like what advice would you give to yourself? Younger Jaeson.
Hmm. I would say not be anxious, because again, when I was young,
Hmm.
uh, I wanted things to be done fast. I wanted to be the best. Um, I thought that completing a task was the right thing to do.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't give importance to why things were done a specific way, rather than just getting angry because things were not getting done the way that I wanted things to be done.
Sure.
Right. Um, so time time is a very good teacher.
Hmm.
Um, so as you mature in life, you kind of realize what is important, and how to navigate. and why decisions are being made the way they are, um, rather than getting stuck to just the small piece of work that you are doing,
Hmm.
and getting mad because things are not being done the way that you want it to be done, or people are not giving importance or visibility to the things that you are
Hmm.
doing. um, so yeah, I was really cranky at one period. uh,
I
when
can't imagine that, Jason. I never even saw a glimpse of him. So
so
you've managed to change, which is a huge
yeah,
testament to your success. So
yeah.
that's great.
So one thing, again, this is from others, okay?
Please,
I'm a nervous wreck. All right. I don't I kind of realize
I
that I
believe
don't show it outside.
you're very good at it. You're very good at hiding it. Yeah, you're very good at hiding it.
I've heard people say, dude, how did you manage that meeting? It was so stressful. You didn't show anything. You were just like smiling the whole time. I would say, like, dude, look under the desk. You should have seen my my feet, just like a duck. Just like a duck. You just see outside the water.
Just like a
You
duck.
don't see
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Just
the
like a
building.
duck.
The
Yeah.
building is strong, but the basement is weak.
Oh my God, stop. This basement is just as strong, but I understand where you're coming from. I
Yeah.
understand. I'm not sure if I like that analogy, but that's not you. I think the basement's just as strong. There just might be a little bit of sweat on the walls.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate your insights, your time, your feedback. This has been a really great conversation. Thank you. And
No.
I think I think for someone who's able to keep to keep, have you heard this expression, but your cards close to your chest, like keep your
Yeah.
emotions like, very, very inside. I don't think I'll ever play poker with you.
I mean,
Jason, thank
if you
you.
look under the desk, you can beat
Yeah,
me.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that. Doesn't yeah, they may not that's frowned upon, I think,
Yeah.
right? So excellent.
Uh,
Well, thank you again, my friend, and I appreciate you very much.
All right, Tom. Again, thank you for this opportunity. It was nice catching up, talking
It
to
really
you.
was. Yeah, really
Um,
good.
yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.